welcome to QTB Legends, where legends of the gaming industry come to tell their story. My name is Nick, and I am joined, as always. Look, if Jordan is the GOAT, this guy is the BOAT. That means the Braddest of all time. I've got QTB's Brad with me. What's up, man?
Nick, how's it going? It's another time for another great episode. We are back again with the man, the myth, the legend, Don Traeger. For those who don't know, for listeners who are just checking us out for the first time, Don is one of the co-founders of EA Sports, renowned Atari game developer for titles like 720 Skateboarding, Paperboy, and Marble Madness. I mean, the list of accolades is endless. But today, we're going to switch it up a bit. We're going to switch gears a bit and focus a bit about Don's contributions in the sports gaming world, but more specifically, working direct with another GOAT, another legend, the icon, his airness, Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's right, folks. We're going to be talking about working with Michael Jordan. Michael, what's his middle name? Michael, no, it's not Bean. That's Kobe Bean Bryant. I'm getting confused here. I'm fanboying out already, Nick. I'm so excited to talk to Don today about working with Michael Jordan.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
There you go.
Michael Jeffrey. Oh, and is that why?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now I know why. We could talk about that in a little bit. That's a nice little anecdote as well. Well, if you haven't already heard, we've got a really great, fun episode for today, and we want to just dive right in. So, we've talked about it and kind of here and there on bits before on previous episodes, Don, that you've done some work with Michael Jordan, but I gotta ask, how did you first meet him? How did you get connected, and what was that like getting to meet Michael Jordan for the first time?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Chicago, and so the Bulls were always my team. Even as bad as they were for all those years, my dad used to take me to the Chicago Stadium to watch Bulls games, and he was pretty cheap, so we'd sit in the third deck, obstructed view behind a pillar. And in Chicago in the 60s, if you were in an environment like that, half the crowd was smoking cigars. So I was like, 10 years old, sitting in the third deck, with eyes watering, trying to peer over a obstacle in the way to watch half of the court. But we just loved the Bulls. And so, when I got to EA and after the history with Larry Bird and Dr. J, Dr. J was retiring. And the Bulls had just drafted this guy out of North Carolina that was getting a lot of accolades, and I loved, and I was really excited that the Bulls had landed Michael Jordan. So right away, I started thinking, let's do a reboot of One-on-One with Michael Jordan replacing Dr. J. And it fit really well, because the two players could play against each other. It was similar to Jordan's style was similar to Dr. J's. He kind of excelled over that, but that was the initial idea.
So let me ask you though, Don. So that's a big gamble in some ways. When I think about this as a sports fan, right? Dr. J, established, legendary athlete. Larry Bird, also in his own right at that time, was a well-established star. But you're talking about a rookie, Michael Jordan, a rookie being drafted out of Chicago, and you guys tabbed him as the replacement for Dr. J. I mean, we know what he's like now, but what was the mindset at EA at the time to go with a rookie versus picking another more established NBA star?
Yeah, it was mildly controversial. It wasn't as controversial as some things I had been involved in. Trip, as I'd mentioned before in another episode, I think Trip psychologically had a little bit of an issue with replacing Dr. J just because that was his baby, and I could understand that. Jordan was a rookie, but he really he had a lot of accolades. There was a lot of press about him. I think the NBA, I think everybody was looking for a new star to kind of come in and take the NBA up to the next level.
Not Magic. Magic wasn't in consideration.
No, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, but he was a little bit before. So you don't realize how in the doldrums the NBA was in like the 70s and early 80s until I'm sorry, until Magic and Bird. And
Right.
then all those great Lakers Celtics rivalries, and that's why I did that team game, Lakers Celtics. But I really think that it was Magic and Bird that really accelerated the popularity of the NBA and kind of took it to the next level. Okay, so that had already the ascension had started with those two guys, and then all of a sudden here comes Jordan, and yeah, he was a rookie, but it was almost like there was no, yeah, it was weird. He was so good, and the accolades were so high that there really wasn't much concern that he was going to be a bust or this. He was that good even early on. So and he had a charisma about him even in those early days that just you just latched onto. So
For some of our younger listeners, would you equate kind of that lore, that expectation, that a natural already kind of stardom in the moment in his rookie season, kind of like what maybe younger folks have seen with LeBron James and him coming out of high school and being kind of this anointed already
yeah,
superstar from the get-go?
but even more so, Stephen Curry. So to
Okay.
me, Steph Curry is the most fun player to watch since Michael Jordan because, like Jordan did, Curry revolutionized the game with the 3-point shot.
Yeah.
And in Jordan's early days when he was the dunk guy, you would just watch in amazement every time he had the ball because you never knew. He'd take the baseline and then get elevated and do like a sideways dunk, and he'd do all this crazy stuff with his tongue hanging out and everything. And Steph Curry, I think, in a similar way, is fun to watch as Jordan was because you just don't expect some guy just crossing the half-point line, half
Mm-hmm.
court, and pulling up and just draining a three. And so you're always watching what he'll do. Yeah, LeBron James is awesome and one of the greatest players of all time, but he's such a physical specimen that it's almost like expected. Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
he was very athletic, but he was 6'5". He wasn't like uh he didn't totally fit the mold at first of what you thought the greatest player of all time might look like. And of course, Steph Curry is like that too. He just looks like, in some ways, he just kind of looks like a regular guy. Um, so that's the guy in modern times that I equate to Jordan as Steph Curry.
Okay. And
It's
so
fascinating. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Nick.
Well, what I was going to say, we talked about this on a previous episode. I think it's a good callback. You had mentioned in our EASN episode, premiere episode of this interview series, about how you got that 6-year deal with Jordan for a
Right.
$250,000, which nowadays you're lucky if that would get you an hour with a big name
Right.
celebrity athlete. So it seems like you latched onto him a lot earlier than a lot of the mainstream sports, I guess, media or franchises had in terms of just utilizing him for something more than just being a basketball player.
Yeah, luckily, and a lot of that was just me being such a huge fan of the Bulls and being so excited about them. I just really wanted to sign them badly, and there was a couple other people, my usual partners at EA, Don Transith especially, that were he too was originally from Chicago, so we had this little Chicago mafia in EA, and we just latched on to Jordan. So we were really, really excited about that. Um, Trip put up a little bit of an argument, but not too much. He made us validate what we wanted to do, and he put some numbers up and was worried about how expensive the NBA and athletes were getting, but we were just like, it didn't take him much to also agree that signing Jordan and doing a reboot of One on One was a good idea. And we had um
So I was
You
going to
know,
ask, was that the first time you met Jordan? Was when he showed up to work on the Jordan versus Bird game, or when was the first interaction you had with him?
Yeah. Okay. So the first interaction with Michael Jordan after we signed the deal. So I've talked a little bit before about David Falk, who was like this super agent, and he was one of the original super agent guys that like he came out. I think he came out of the tennis world, and then started this agency that he was signing a lot of basketball players, a lot of superstar basketball players. So he had built up quite a business, and he was a really interesting guy in his own right. So I approached him, and he was into technology, thought it was a good futuristic move for Jordan. So we worked out the deal with David Falk and his team for the Jordan on Bird, Jordan versus Bird reboot of Dr. J. And I wouldn't say it was prestigious because it was a small computer company still, but I think that they thought that agreeing to have Michael Jordan replace Dr. J in this thing was like kind of a cool move for them, especially for a rookie. So they were pretty interested. And so we signed the deal. We started working on the project. Early on, we were going to have our first meeting with Michael and also Larry Bird. And it was at a little gym in Chicago near Wrigley Field, North Side, called Angel Guardian Gym. And if you can imagine, Angel Guardian Gym, it was kind of like this high school gym with risers and stuff. And it's where the Celtics, who were in town to play the Bulls the next night, they practiced at Angel Guardian Gym when they came to Chicago. So we agreed to do the first meetup there. We were going to go over basic stats, do some photos, etc. And, we get to Angel Guardian Gym. And just a classic setting. I mean, you couldn't imagine a cooler setting for something like this. It was like out of what was Hoosiers, something like that. So we get there, and the Celtics were already there. Larry Bird was already there. So as we get in, most of the Celtics are leaving, and there's Larry Bird, and he says hello, and he goes into the locker room. And the locker room at Angel Guardian Gym was behind the baseline, so it's behind a backboard, and you just walk into the tunnel, okay? So he goes. Then pretty soon we hear all this noise and commotion, and it's Jordan arriving. And, we go outside, and he's got like this, I think he was doing GM ads at the time, so he's got this freaking awesome Corvette, and, several people with him, and his driver, who I'll go into in a minute. And, he comes in, all the Nike gear on, and, it was night and day compared to Larry Bird. And, so he comes in, and he goes in to the locker room, past the backboard, into, beyond the baseline, into the locker room. Okay, so now I meet his driver, George. And so Jordan had this driver in Chicago that was his like driver, personal assistant from the day he came to Chicago through his whole career. And the dude was the coolest guy. His name was George. And he was kind of heavy set, a big guy. He had a beard, but he was the nicest guy. And so I started talking to George, and I'm like, well, how did you hook up with Michael? And he goes, I read he was flying in. I just went out to the airport. I met him at the gate, and I said, "Hey, you need a driver." And there was nobody else there, and they formed a lifetime friendship out of that. Anyway,
Wow.
So
wow,
yeah, it was really cool.
Taking the bull by the horns, no pun intended, to get your opportunity.
I was really impressed with him. So anyway. These guys are in the dressing room, and they're getting ready and whatever. And so George says, hey, you want to play hoops? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So George and I start playing one-on-one in this Angel Guardian Gym. while Bird and Jordan are getting ready. And
Oh, I see where this is going.
yeah, well, you might, but anyway. So George, who's this kind of like heavyset Chicago dude, he was awesome. He was just draining shots, and he was kicking my ass. And I'm not a great hoops player. I love hoops, but I was never, on a high school team or anything. So I'm struggling and sucking wind, and he's beating me pretty bad. So I haul up and peel off to shoot a 3. Okay, and my form from the free throw line was bad enough, but from 3, I'm just like heaving it with 2 hands. So. Just as I'm shooting, I'm just going up to shoot. Larry Bird comes walking out of the tunnel directly in my line of view. Like, yeah, he sees the whole shot, and I shoot it like bricks off the rim, and he goes, "What the fuck was that?" And I'm like, "Oh." And then he starts laughing, and that's
amazing.
That was my introduction to Larry Bird. I picked the worst time in the world to try a 3. And then finally Jordan came out, and we started the session, and it was a lot of fun. He didn't hold it against me, thankfully. But George definitely kicked my ass. I will say that.
Well, that's amazing. So even Jordan's driver has game, is what you're telling me.
Exactly. Yeah. And good game. He was good. I was like, wow, this is incredible.
So we all know how successful Jordan is in his career. 6 NBA championships, 6-0 in the NBA Finals, multiple NBA Finals MVPs. I mean, anyone who's a sports fan knows he's widely considered to be the greatest of all time. And so we've seen what he does on the basketball court. We know how cutthroat he is, how he clearly demanded success of himself and his teammates. Did you see that energy, that work ethic cross over into the game development side when you were working with him?
Oh yeah, he was one of the kings of trash talking and super competitive. So everybody always had stories wherever I went with Jordan about how competitive he is, whether they were playing poker or this other card game that they like to play. Anything was a bet, and anything was like kind of a challenge. So one time he had this celebrity golf tournament in Chicago, and I went. I think Don Transith went with me, and we were really excited. And all Jordan and his NBA friends were there. At the time, he was really close with Charles Barkley, and my golfing partner was Richard Roundtree, who was Shaq.
Oh yeah.
And so there was all these cool people there, and everybody was smoking Cubans, and we were smoking Cubans in the golf carts, and these guys. So I don't know. It was like the 3rd or the 4th hole, and I get up, and we had to hit a shot over a little pond, a lake, and so I get to the tee box, and I'm like looking at this water. I had a magnetism to water. It's like, show me water on a golf hole, and I will find a way to hit it. So I'm standing at the tee box trying to figure what I'm going to do. Behind me, Jordan and all these golf carts pull up to watch me drive this hole. Yeah. So
much pressure for you, man.
Yeah. Oh God. There's Jordan, and he's smoking a stogie. Charles Barkley, other NBA players. I think Jerry West was there.
Hey, we all know how bad Charles Barkley's golf swing is. No shade, Charles. I'm just saying, there's videos out there. We've seen it. So no pressure, Don.
All these greats were there. Not only the NBA greats, but actors and whatever. I'm sitting there, my knees are knocking, and I hit a shot. It was okay. I think I sliced it. I might have gotten it over the water, thankfully. And And then, so this is typical Jordan. After the shot, I'm climbing back in my golf cart, and Jordan comes driving up, smoking a stogie. And he goes, Don? No, he called me DT. He goes, DT, they tell me that you look like Davis Love. And Davis Love he went to North Carolina with Jordan. So Davis Love III, he was a pro golfer back in the 80s and 90s. He goes, they tell me you look like Davis Love. You don't golf like Davis Love. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, Michael. All right. But he was always, he was always ready to give you a hard time or, have a challenge. Like, I remember when we were doing Jordan Flight, like some of his favorite moments were where we were doing trash talking lines, and he got his eyes lit up and he got to, this is what I would say, and he would trash talk. Like, there was one about, and this was the first time I heard the line about posterizing someone, like, posterizing someone on a dunk. So he loved that kind of stuff.
So I gotta ask, is his golf swing better than his baseball swing?
Yeah, he was a pretty good golfer. Because you don't have to.
We all know about it. We all know about
the
his
ball.
Yeah.
The ball is just sitting on a tee. It's not curving.
Right. We all know about his attempt at AA baseball and it not going as well and coming back out of retirement. Yeah.
The Birmingham Barons. But regardless, man, that stadium, a AA stadium was packed every time he played.
The draw, man. He's an incredible athlete. Oh, look, there we go. Got Davis Love on the screen.
I see it.
I see it. Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Oh, wow. Well, so let me ask you this, Don. You talk about being grown up in Chicago and being a Bulls fan and being a fan of basketball in general. I know now you attend even Warriors games and different things like that. Right. How did your love for the sport enhance or maybe change the way you approached working with Jordan and Bird, one, but also how that maybe enhanced the game's development in itself?
Well, I think the first thing is these guys could tell that we were really into it. My shot looked like hell, but Bird could tell that we were really passionate about the game, and they appreciated us, I think, as fans in that way. So, another episode we can talk about just working with celebrities in general, but by the time I had met them and was working with them, I had a few other celebrity encounters, so I kind of had a feel for how to work with them. And, generally, if you just appreciate their work and treat them kind of like normal people, I think they really respect that. And then they see in you what you're passionate about, and that got them excited. So, I think that kind of worked in our favor because we weren't just like too. And I talk about Don Transith because he was so often with me in these escapades. But it wasn't like we were just like, I don't know, two suits from Warner Brothers showing up to do a license thing. We were like geeking out, trying to play basketball with their drivers and, doing this game stuff. So I think they kind of had a different appreciation for what we were doing.
Well, if you were to flip the script, did Jordan seem to be a student of your game or of the gaming development? Did he show interest in learning about the different aspects of it, or was he more focused on his stats or the way he would spin or perform in the game?
I think they really got. I think they were into the technology a lot. I don't think they, they didn't have that one deeper level about it, but they were just into technology. Like there was a period of time, a couple of years there, where I was talking to a lot to Jordan's wife Juanita about how to set up their home computer systems and entertainment systems and stuff, and I kind of almost felt like their electronics guy there for a while, and that was kind of cool. So he was definitely into the technology and the computers. But these guys were serious pro athletes, and, all their time and energy went into perfecting their craft, So, uh, Jordan
That
didn't
did that
go
find
off
it?
and
I would say, did
yeah,
that
go
find
ahead.
it hard then to schedule time with him at times, or like was this during the off season? Like,
Yeah,
how do you
yeah,
balance that with an athlete?
it was a big production, scheduling time, months in advance. Um, Working out a schedule with his personal assistant at the agency, and making sure that everything was could fly. And that got more difficult the more popular he got. Um,
I was
but
gonna say that you had a
they
6 year
all
contract, right?
it always
So
it
Right.
always worked out, and sometimes we'd be worried, oh, is Michael gonna come? And he would always show up. He never missed a date, and always fulfilled his stuff, and was always very gracious. Like there was one time after Jordan Bird, and that was a big hit, so they were pretty happy. And we started Jordan Flight Simulator, and we had this big uh, studio set up in Chicago to do the filming. We were doing everything was against a blue screen, and we were digitizing everything. And like I had my family there, and he was really gracious to everyone. And we had this huge table of stuff to sign, and he signed everything. So he was very cool. In fact, one sad memory, but a good memory at the time was during that session. I had his father invited me to lunch with him, and I went out to lunch with his dad. And he was telling me stories about Michael in high school and how hard he worked, and I could see that the family and the work ethic of the family was just such a positive. You could see why a guy like Michael would come out of such a strong family like that. His mom was really cool, and his dad was really cool, and it was only like a few weeks before his dad got murdered in North
uh,
Carolina at the. And so I always thought back about what a nice, super guy he was, and how sad
yeah,
that was.
I know he wasn't the most heralded guy out of high school. I know when he first joined high school, he hadn't grown yet. He was kind of this scrawny point guard type of a player, and it wasn't until close to his senior year where he got that growth spurt. And really, it was the
Yeah,
work ethic that made him, be attractive to go to UNC, North Carolina, for college. So,
right. And he
you
even
know,
even then he wasn't. I mean, 6'5" is tall, but it's not NBA tall. So he just had, yeah, he had an amazing work ethic, and he was an amazing athlete. He was just such a fine tuned athlete, and his body fat and everything was just uh, so fine tuned that he did things that other people hadn't done before.
so you mentioned you obviously Jordan versus Bird. You've mentioned now the flight simulator, right? Can you give us a list of in that 6 year contract? What are all the games that you were able to, or most of the games you were able to put out with Jordan during that time period?
Yeah, so there was 3 games in the 6 year time period, and Jordan Bird, the first one, multiple platforms. So that was like a 2 or 3 year. That took up half the contract just doing that, because we first did it on PC and Apple, and then we licensed it, and all these guys did it. The other licenses came out on uh, Nintendo and Tiger Electronics and stuff, and then we started a whole nother generation of it with Sega Genesis and SNES. I think SNES too. So that thing lived for a number of years, and uh, then we started Jordan Flight Simulator, and that was a massive project that was just PC only, because it was just high end technology, and that was all digitized. We were filming everything. We called it a flight simulator, um, and that took several years to do. And then, kind of at the tail end of that, we started the adventure game. So on the SNES, so that was the kind of duration of the license. And the other thing that was huge, that became almost probably the most valuable aspect of the license was that early on, Jordan pulled himself out of the NBA collective licensing agreement. So he was so big that he thought that the NBA should pay him extra or above and beyond just a normal roster guy because he's like the face of the NBA. So they couldn't agree on anything. So he pulled his. He didn't allow any other company with an NBA license to use Jordan. So all of a sudden, we were sitting on a gold mine because I had the NBA license, and with subsequent, the follow up to Lakers Celtics was Bulls versus Lakers, and then Bulls versus Blazers because the Bulls got hot, and now we were the only company that had the ability to feature Jordan, not only have him in the game, but have him on the package, have him in the advertising. So that was like a big coup. And actually, you could take all the games away, and just the fact that we had Jordan for all those years in NBA games when other people couldn't was a big deal. Like I remember.
Well, I was just thinking, Don, so you signed him, he was a rookie, right? So that must have been like 84, 85, right?
Yeah.
And so that 6-year contract is taking you into the peak of when the Bulls start hitting that first trilogy of championships in 91, 92, 93. So the timing to have that contract, it'd be 6 years, and have that meteoric rise of not only himself, but the Bulls as a franchise you guys must have been just sitting back one day and just going, wow, what did we land on?
Yeah, it was really a stroke of luck. One funny story from those times is a friend of mine, Mark Turmel, who early on at EA, he came to me, and we tried to do a deal. He was a great programmer, really another one of these guys that was really a good fun engineer. He knew how to make things fun. And he thought the EA deal was too greasy and didn't do it. So he went on to Williams, and his first game in the arcade was Smash TV, which was really awesome. His next game was NBA Jam. Okay.
What?
So,
just a little game called NBA Jam.
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah.
So here is a little known story about NBA Jam. So NBA Jam was all set to release. And Mark Turmel's from Chicago, Williams Bally, they're in Chicago. So these guys were huge Jordan fans. And the NBA Jam first release had Jordan and Pippen. You could play those two guys, and it was prominently featured, right? So the NBA
I never got that copy, though, man. It was Pippen and Horace Grant, man. Come on.
Yeah, there is... I've heard there are pirated beta
copies of the original
arcade games around that have Jordan in them, but I haven't seen one. So anyway, the NBA contacts Williams and goes, by the way, you got to pull Jordan, and that was like, that was a huge death blow. Of course, didn't matter. That game was awesome.
I played the crap out of that on my SNES, man. I played that all the time.
That was the arcade game for me, but so that was an example of how powerful our license with Jordan was. That we could have them pulled out of NBA Jam. So there were several calls like that around, and people had to pull Jordan out of the game. So that was really a coup at the time.
So I got to ask then, okay, so you've got a 6-year deal. You're doing these games. Jordan he's already famous, but he just hits another level of superstardom I don't think anyone in the NBA had ever experienced before.
Right.
Did that change the experience at all? Did it change the way the games were developed? Did it change his availability? Did it change him? What was the latter half of the last 2 years maybe of that deal like?
He just got so incredibly busy that it was just harder. We could always schedule time, but you just knew that, he had so many things going on. All the Gatorade stuff and he had like Ohio Arts and these huge deals at the time. Fruit of the Loom, I think, was underwear. Like,
yeah.
it was just like
I think he did a Got Milk commercial too. I think he did it some.
Yeah.
Ames, they wound up, that was later though.
Oh,
and you know,
yeah.
you could see over the years, you could see his entourage grow, you know, and the next year when we'd meet with him, there'd be more guys around and handlers and stuff. But at some level, he always stayed pretty cool. You know, it never got too crazy. Like, someday I'll tell you a story about meeting Michael Jackson and how insane that was. But, you know, Jordan never got that crazy. But you could just see how busy everything was. And, you know, just his demands on his time were incredible.
Did he have a favorite of the three that you put out with him? Did he have one that he liked over the others?
I think Jordan Bird. I think he liked replacing Dr. J. I think he's always a little flummoxed with like the adventure game. Like his thing, he was into sports. Like, so sometimes he would kind of look at the adventure game. I don't think he really knew how to react. But it was fun. It was fine. But he would go like, "Oh, this is for the kids. You know, that's cool. I like doing it for the kids."
Right.
But his thing was basketball.
I mean, look, as far as I'm concerned, once you got the Tiger electronic game, that's how
Oh,
you know you've made
man.
it big.
Yeah. I still remember meeting those guys at Tiger, and it was kind of funny because it was just, you know, the LED stuff, but that was still popular at the time. And
Oh yeah, huge.
you know, anything with Jordan, especially, but Jordan Bird on the cover was gonna sell.
Yeah.
You know, I have there's one other funny story. Now this is a little bit Larry Birdy, but I want to tell you this one since we're on the subject before it goes away. At Angel Guardian Gym, when we go back to the beginning, and we had just finished, and we had really good sessions. Everybody was cool. Jordan and George go out and they get in their vet and they, you know, pull out and the entourage is gone. And so what's left in the gym is me and Don Transith and Larry Bird and his trainer. And his trainer, towards the end of the session, his trainer had gone out and gotten, I don't know where, but he had a bucket of ribs, like barbecue ribs, a big bucket. And so we're standing there and Bird goes, hey, are you going back into town? Can you give us a lift? Like, this Bird, like, he's not going to have a limo driver or a driver or anything. He's like, hey, can you guys give us a lift? And I'm like, and we're like, sure. So me and Transith and I are walking out. And one thing I didn't mention, it's St. Patty's Day, all right? So
oh man, in Chicago, man, that's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, it's St. Patty's Day in Chicago, and I don't know.
Is the river
you know,
is the river green?
the river's green, the green beer is flowing. There's like, you know, if you've ever seen St. Patty's in Chicago, there's like thousands of drunks.
It's a massive, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so we're gonna take Larry Bird in our rent-a-car back to his hotel downtown.
Did he fit? I mean, he's a tall dude, right? If you got a
He's a tall
sedan,
dude,
man,
yeah.
that's
He sat in the front seat, and I sat in the back with the trainer because it was my rent-a-car, and we're walking up to get in the car, and I have the keys in my hand, and I look at Transith and I go, Tranny, it's St. Patty's Day in Chicago. I'm not the greatest driver. I don't want to have these guys' lives in my hands. Would you mind driving? He goes, no problem. So Transit drove. Larry sat in the passenger seat, and I was in the back with the trainer, and he was passing Bird ribs.
ribs.
And so we start driving back to the hotel, and Larry Bird just starts telling stories. I mean, it was awesome. He, you know, first he held up his hands, and virtually every finger was broken. You know, and he goes, you don't realize in basketball how much poking. It's always poking. And he goes, I've broken every finger. And like he holds them up, and all his fingers are crooked. And then he starts telling about other kinds of pokes where guys stab at the ball and they like
Get your face or your eye.
get your face or your eye, and they like poke a little dent in your cheek. And he goes, "Oh yeah, and we have our trainer has like a fish hook thing, and they just like pop it back out." So there's all this kind of stuff that they go through that you just don't even realize. And his hands were just so gnarly. And then that's when he was telling us how he's he really ingrained how much he practices, where he said, I take so many shots from everywhere on the court. He goes, if you put me in a blindfold and set me on the court and told me where I am, I could hit the shot. And it's all muscle memory, just because it's thousands and thousands of shots. And he was just so down to earth and like such a blue collar guy. And, chewing on the ribs and just telling these stories on the drive back. And then we dropped him off at the hotel. And Transith and I, we had our Jordan Bird jackets on, and Larry had his on, these silk Jordan Bird jackets. And we were like, I can't believe what just happened today. And we went around the corner from Larry Bird's hotel was Harry Carey's bar. And it was going crazy for St. Patty's. And we just had to, have a few beers and think back about what an incredible day we had just had with Jordan and Bird.
That is incredible. I mean, just the FaceTime, the fact that you got to do this development, these iconic games. I mean, that is a once in a lifetime experience. It really is.
Yeah. And, the other thing is Bird was really super cool because Dr. J versus Larry Bird was already a big hit and like very, very critically well known, so it was kind of a prestigious thing. And, how
long did you have, was Bird under an exclusive contract or was he just a part of the Celtics? How did that work?
Yeah, it was an exclusive that Tripp had done years ago. And that, in fact, I don't know the deal because that was a couple years before I came there, but it was probably more incredible than the 6 years, $250 for Jordan. At the time they did Larry Bird and Dr. J, I don't think there was money for advances. So I think he just gave them stock. I think Tripp gave him stock options. Because I remember years later, I was at an NBA All-Star game in Miami Beach. And Dr. J was there. And I was talking to Dr. J. And he was like, oh, yeah, that was a good deal. I'm glad I took that stock.
Hope he hung on to it for a while because he became so much. Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's my next question then is like when the Jordan deal ended and even the Bird deal ended, I mean, there must have been interest to negotiate a second contract, right? But at that point, what was the atmosphere like? Was there interest to continue the relationship on your end, on Jordan's end? Like what was the vibe like in the early 90s with that?
Well, as we discussed, by that time I had kind of phased out of sports. Things had transitioned, and I think the NBA became so expensive that the guys that were doing NBA Live, it was all they could do to afford the NBA at that point. So they weren't adding, the whole idea, other than Tiger Woods, who they did for golf for many years, it kind of focused more on the league stuff. So
do you feel like the NBA was setting a precedent compared to the other leagues at the time for price? I mean, do you feel like they had leverage compared to like the NFL or the Major League Baseball? Or?
No, I think they all got really expensive, and it was the nature of the beast because the gaming world got so big, and like I talked before about how the NBA, I was, kind of saddled in with all the clothing people, but, by the early 90s, they all had, technology, video game licensing things set up, and they were asking for a lot of money, and it got a lot more complicated. So I think, adding another player on top of that license got prohibitively expensive. but I don't think there was a real push to do any more. And the individual license with Shaq and what happened there probably wasn't a good measuring stick to want to keep doing more of that.
So, what do you think of today's environment with sports games now and the type of contracts that maybe exist between the leagues and EA or other developers? What's your take on today's environment?
Well, I don't know. I kind of look at EA and EA Sports kind of sad because so many of the things that they used to do, they don't do anymore. Baseball and basketball and it's pretty much just Madden and FIFA. I think I don't even think they do golf anymore. So I don't really even know what EA Sports really stands for anymore because so much of this stuff has left, and I don't exactly know why. I didn't stay close with the sports people there and what happened, but it's far different from in our day when it was like we had to have every sport and every license because that was what gave us legitimacy. So I guess it's really just become EA Sports is Madden, Madden and FIFA, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there was
isn't F1 in that umbrella too, Nick? Or maybe I'm misspeaking.
I believe that is that goes with Codemasters.
Oh, okay,
I don't think that's EA anymore. But there was a
Right.
time like when EA had every professional league, every college league. There was all the NC2A games. I think actually I read somewhere that they're bringing some NC2A back. Remember NASCAR? The NASCAR was a big license for several years, and F1 and all this stuff. And it's just kind of a shell of its former self. And then, you're asking me personally, and, I guess I'm too old, but the stuff just got so hard to play to me. It's like, I really struggled. Like the last EA NBA game I played, I scored about 4 points in a whole quarter, and I'm like, it's too hard. I didn't understand, and that's probably just me aging out. But
Yeah.
Well,
You
no,
know,
but I
I-
think that's a fair question, right, Nick? I mean, we talk about realness to how the game's played versus complexity and how that translates to the controllers, right? I mean, there's
Right.
got to be a balance there on wanting it to look realistic versus it being kind of cumbersome to attempt, right?
I think in a way EA has kind of become a victim of their own success in that, every year that there's a new Madden or a new game that has to be something different, right? They don't just want to have a roster update. They want new features, new mechanics. And so naturally you get these new things layered on top of these new things to the point that, it's no longer, you play a new Madden game that you haven't played in a couple of years and you're just like, what? Yeah, it's overwhelming. There's all these
Yeah.
systems and mechanics and you would think they'd make it intuitive, but I think in a way they kind of have to cater to that audience that doesn't want it that way.
I don't know. It just seems like they could come out with an engine and then support it for a couple years with DLCs or something, and then not keep having to up the ante so far that it becomes unplayable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened and why, but I'm sure that one major reason is that the leagues got so freaking expensive.
Oh, I don't
Well,
doubt it.
Only adds to the lore of Don Traeger, aka DT, landing the only Jordan deal out there ever to happen. And so I gotta ask, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of baited you, I kind of fooled our listeners. I kind of flubbed on Michael Jordan's middle name for a reason. So I gotta ask you, what's another little anecdote you can tell us about Michael Jordan and his name and maybe how that translates to you personally?
Yeah, so the first meeting with Jordan, I think my wife was pregnant with my son, and I had done all this stuff with Jordan, and it was really feeling pretty good about that. So I think I negotiated with my wife that my first son's name be Jeffrey after
Wow.
Jordan.
How about that?
And Jordan signed a few things for him that are
Did he
pretty
sign
cool.
the baby?
No, you know what he had? The coolest thing he has is a original Space Jam poster with Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny, and it's
Man.
signed to Jeffrey.
That's
So
worth
that's
something.
pretty cool.
So
Oh man.
you kind of, Don, you're the king of segues naturally. My next question for you was going to be, what is your favorite, if there was any memento or anything that you walked away with that time with Jordan that you've got put away somewhere at home or displayed somewhere? What is the one Jordan piece that you have that you take pride in?
You can see this poster behind me. This is and there's a glare on it, but it's Jordan and Spike Lee, and they had done this Nike campaign from Earth to Mars, and Spike Lee in the movie, in his first big movie, was Mars Blackman. So they did a bunch of cool ads with that, and I love these things, and he signed those. But probably, so two cool things I have that I really like. The first is original Team USA signed Jordan jersey. He was number 9 on the original Dream Team.
Oh man, that's got to be a one of a kind piece. That he didn't sign many of those.
He signed a lot of stuff, so I don't know, but it's an original Dream Team jersey. It's not game worn, but still, it's pretty cool.
Okay.
And the other is when we went to Birmingham when he was playing baseball, Nike had done a Michael Jordan baseball. So it's the Air Jordan logo on a baseball. And I have that.
No way.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
I have that signed. I'll send you a picture. Maybe we could drop it in. It's pretty cool.
Well, definitely.
It's really cool.
We'll have to pop that up. That is,
it's really
I've never
cool.
seen a Jordan baseball, but I remember the Jordan armbands, but that kind of crossed both baseball and basketball. You can just kind of wear it on your arm, but
that Jumpman logo, right? The dunking thing. Yeah, so it's on a baseball, and there's a Nike logo on it too. It's pretty cool.
Did he have his own bats then that had the logo on it as well?
His what?
Do you know? His baseball bat? His baseball bat, did it have the logo on it as well?
I don't think so. I never saw that. I
wouldn't be surprised if he put it on everything he could. So,
but that whole Birmingham experience was pretty fun. So we were flying. Here's a funny story. Maybe we can end on this one. We're flying. My partner Greg and I get in a plane. We're going to fly out to Birmingham, Alabama, to meet with Jordan. And we were going over Chaos in the Windy City at the time. And we're like, fuck, Birmingham, what the hell? So we get on the plane, and there's these two people in the back of the plane that look like they were from Birmingham. So we were going to be out there for like a week, and we're like, oh, God, what are we going to do? So I go back, and I asked this girl, I said, well, we've never been to Alabama before. What should we do? Like, what's there to do? And she goes, well, tomorrow's Friday night. We like to go to the Waffle House. And I'm like, all right.
Heck yes.
I'm telling you,
Waffle House.
Waffle Houses are legit. They're a dime a dozen on every corner, but you can't go wrong.
Yep.
Pretty funny. Anyway, we had a blast. Everybody was very cool in Birmingham, and they had this amazing golf trail, the Birmingham Golf Trail. So it totally kind of rejiggered my brain about how cool that part of the country can actually be.
Well, I'll tell you, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, well, just like Waffle House hash browns, I think every aspect of your time with Jordan has been scattered, smothered, and covered. Had to do it. But this has been a lot of fun. I mean, it's just fascinating because like Brad has been saying, this interaction that you had and this deal that you managed to strike with Jordan is such a product of it that it can't be replicated by today's standards with just the way that those dynamics and the value of sports franchises has changed. And to be able
Right.
to get a deep dive and hear a lot of these stories, that we've not heard before, really in the gaming industry at all. Really, really puts perspective, I think, on just the magic of those years and you really being front and center for all of it. So, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, it was just before things went big time. So we were able to kind of maneuver and do these kind of things that became a lot more difficult and expensive to do in just a few short years later.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you again, Don. This was such a blast. I mean, I'm like I said, I told you at the beginning of the episode, I'm fanboying out. It's games, it's Jordan. I mean, it's a dream of mine to even be talking about this with you today. So thank you so
Cool.
much, Don. We can't wait till the next episode. So Nick, take it away.
Yeah, stay tuned because we've got even more content here with Don, or Don Tent, as we like to call it.
There we
Talk about
go.
more aspects of his gaming career. So stay tuned right here to QTV Legends. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.